Welcome to my show when I host the most interesting and influential people from all around the world. And today I'm honored to have Professor Alan Dershowitz on the show. Professor Dershowitz is a longtime warrior for free speech, the American Constitution, and of course, Israel. He is the author of many books, including The Case for Israel, a must-read for anyone who wishes to understand the case for the Jewish state with historic and international perspective. So Professor Dershowitz, many thanks for joining me today on the show. How are you?
I'm doing good. Thank you so much for having me.
It's my pleasure. Now, with your permission, since we don't have plenty of time, I would like to cover a few topics. So let's start with Jonathan Pollard. You said many times that O.J. Simpson's acquittal was at Yom Kippur Eve, and at the synagogue, people said to you, Mazel Tov. But you said, don't say Mazel Tov, I'm not happy. I just did my job, and don't forget that in this story, someone got murdered. Now, it seems that we have a completely different story with Pollard. So let me ask you this. According to the US intelligence, Pollard caused a great harm to your country, the US. Are you happy now?
I'm very happy. He hasn't been acquitted. He served 30 years in jail and 5 years on probation. After being promised that he would not get a sentence of that kind. He made a deal, and the United States government broke the deal. And the villain of the piece was the former Secretary of Defense, Caspar Weinberger. He arranged for the deal to be broken. Pollard was supposed to serve a short term. Every other person who ever spied for an American ally served a relatively short term. And then his sentence was affirmed by 3 judges, including Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who just died. She was on the panel and voted in favor of keeping him in prison. He should have been released a long time ago. This is not a cause for celebration or making him a hero or acting as if this was a political decision by the Trump administration. It was a humanitarian decision based on the fact that he served his time completely and served it without any problems.
Okay, so let me tell you, let me ask you this. There was an opinion article yesterday in Israel that said that we know that Israelis don't need to publicly celebrate his return because according to the author, Professor Nadav Shneb, Israeli spying in the US is like send someone to steal money from your father's wallet. It is inexcusable. Hence the unproportional punishment. Now, if you remember correctly, you said that the punishment was so painful since the judges were Jewish or self-hating Jews. So what do you think regarding what we did, what Israel did was in fact inexcusable?
I think it was foolish, but I don't think inexcusable. The United States spies on Israel, let there be no doubt about that. Every country spies on every other country. The United States spies on Great Britain. Great Britain spies on the United States. Every country spies on each other. The foolish thing was getting caught. But it wasn't Jonathan Pollard's fault. He was asked by the Israeli intelligence to spy. If anybody is to blame for it, it's his handlers and Israeli intelligence. Apparently, the decision to use an American was made near the very top of the Israeli government. So Pollard was just a pawn in an effort by Israel to receive information. And let's remember, too, that Israel was supposed to receive this information. And Caspar Weinberger, who was born to a Jewish family and was a self-hating Jew, cut out the intelligence exchanges between Israel and the United States. And Jonathan Pollard thought that that endangered Israel. And so he provided the information criminally and wrongly. He shouldn't have done it, but he should have gotten about an 8 or 10 year sentence. That was the sentence that Americans got for spying for Egypt, for spying for Poland, for spying for other countries. The fact that he was Jewish and spied for the nation state of the Jewish people, according to even CIA people, his Jewishness and Israel's Jewishness played a role in the length of the sentence. I've never described the people who kept him in jail as self-hating Jews, except for Caspar Weinberger. He fit that description, but he should not be, there should not be a celebration. There should not be, he should not be made into a hero. The relationships between Israel and the United States must be maintained, particularly in light of the new administration coming in. And so I think he should be quietly welcomed and allowed to live his life out this was a humanitarian act, not a political act, to finally allow him to be free.